Everybody snap out and say you're recording.
All right. I was gonna close this door, maybe. Oh, it got quiet.
I might probably share my screen.
That makes sense. Did it help to have the video on last time or no?
Did actually.
To turn on video? Oh, look at us.
Don't feel compelled to take a frame. Just I don't think I'm
Yeah. Should we shut that door too or no?
gonna come together.
All right, friends. I think we're gonna get started. It is 6:07. I said 6:04, but I was wrong. So welcome to the August version of Next 5. This is a meetup that we put together, Ben, Dustin, and I, because we had a long-running discussion about like futurism, and like what we kind of base everything around is the fact that like if you've ever seen like the curve of like how chips get faster, they double every 18 months or whatever. Like exponential growth is amazing, and that's what's happening in technology right now. So the things that we're seeing technical growth around right now is AI. We've also talked about robots in the past. We want to talk about anything that's going to happen in the next 5 years, and what do we need to be doing now to make sure we're ready for that when it comes. So to that end, first thing we usually talk about is news. Now this isn't new. This is the document that I created using Gemini to do a research paper for me. The question we asked in April was, can I buy a bipedal robot? Can I own one, right? And I had Gemini, it created in 15 minutes this awesome table for me. So the news portion of this is there's been a new entry to the list. This one I think is the most exciting one I've seen yet. This is Unitree's R1. And before I start telling you specs on it, let's go ahead and watch the video. Awesome. So what makes this one different than anyone that we've seen before is the price that they're putting this out for is $5,900. We have not seen one anywhere close to that low of a price yet. The weight on it is 25 kilograms without the battery, which is about half the weight of the ones we've seen before. And the height is 1.2 meters. A lot of the ones we saw before were 1.7 meters. Battery life is fairly low. It's only an hour. But there's also an edu version. And what I expect to happen is for college campuses to buy these to actually start doing research. You can order this right now. The problem is the delivery on it is very unclear. So the website, if you go out there, Price from $5,900. It goes into a lot of the stuff we saw in the video. And then at the bottom, there are the specs and the spec sheet. So this one is the coolest one I've seen so far by far. Okay. Yes, this is true. Is that? Thank you. Oh.
So they talk about any sort of like industry applications, like what's the target market for this?
That one is consumer. That one is truly consumer and education. So Unitree is the one, like in April, we talked about, can I buy one? And in May, Dustin brought this one out. And this one was one of the ones that was in the half marathon in Nanjing. I did not complete, but it did complete a 5K the day before. This one is $16,000. The one we talked about in April, this is the one for like kind of industrial use or whatever. This one's $90,000 for a base, up to $160,000. So this is the first one I've seen under $10,000. So like the price of a used car, as opposed to, they were saying the way they market these is the price of a very souped out luxury car, right? So now we actually have one that's the price of a used car, which is pretty. Yeah, great question. If you go to that link or whatever, you can see all the specs on it. That stuff, like we won't go into depth on this. This is just kind of like quick news type of things. But if you're interested in that, we can do another next 5 in the future kind of on this topic. Oh yeah, I forgot. Dustin likes to build. Okay, next bit of news is the Beijing just held the World Humanoid Robot Games.
This is not your average sports tournament.
How do I turn it down?
This is the first ever World
You can't do it on here.
Robot Games. The athletes come in all shapes, sizes, and structure to compete in events ranging from running to kickboxing to soccer. 3 days, human athletes from 16 countries putting machines through the motions to show the potential of embodied AI as well as its limitations. It isn't about winning or losing, but it's a way to try for robots in agility, endurance, and battery life. Some of the humanoids are competing in more practical job skills, like sorting medicine and hotel concierge duties. That's why a team from Starbucks made the trip from California. Their robots work in customer service. Humans are ready. The games are meant to showcase how far robotics have come and to provide a window into a future where humanoids are integrated into daily life. But it also reveals closing official gap with the United States. For years, Beijing has been millions of dollars into AI research, state subsidies, like they did with the electricity industry, making videos of robots dancing, punching, and performing have been all over Chinese social media and state TV as the government has deepened its investment here. But the games are the most ambitious promotional push yet. I drew a small but curious crowd to watch how next-gen robotics are taking shape. Research published by Morgan Stanley predicts that by 2050, China will have 302.3 million humanoid robots in use, well ahead of the US projection of just 77.7 million. He says when robots like these gain independent thinking and behavior after training, that will be the real AI age. From what we saw here, people are not speed records being set, and many of the athletes, now they're prone to fizzling at face plants. Yet it's all wired to the real goal for China, getting ahead in the global race for AI domination one step at a time. Janice Frayer, NBC News, Beijing.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news.
Okay, so that was the US, and that's how we presented that. I think that's wrong. China is way ahead of us. We're presenting this as, oh, China's trying to catch up. Not true. From everything we've seen the last couple of times we've dug into this,
Field races, matches, and dance demonstrations. From 280 teams from 16 countries will compete across 26.
We come here to we're interested in research. And of course, you can develop new exciting chips here in this context because let's say I can try it with my friends who are also very good at programming and mathematics.
you score goals like that?
We lose again. That's sad. It's better. They're investing a lot of money into a product that this tail.
So those last two were the ones that were fighting were the Unitree models, and like last time we went over like the half marathon, the way that they were trying to cover for not doing well in the half marathon said that they were trying to do agility things like the kickboxing or whatever, and kind of came through with that. So Unitree did end up. Let's see, where is it? Taking first in the 500-meter track race or 1,500-meter track race, like the metric mile, and then the 400-meter track race. They were incredibly faster. Now the 100-meter, I can't remember which. I think it was Tiangong took the gold medal, but they were the third fastest by clock time. But because the Tiangong one was fully autonomous and did not have someone on a control panel, it got a 0.8 multiplier. So its time was the third. Yeah, so they took, it is less than one, that's the thing. So they took third, right? But they got to multiply their time by 0.8 so that it would be less, right? And they took the gold medal because it was fully autonomous. Whereas the one that actually got the fastest time had someone with a remote control. I don't know if you noticed when people were running around the track, there's people running with them with remote controls. None of them have beat human times yet. Like these aren't incredible times. Like, but a 6-minute mile is probably faster than most of the people in the room. So it is considerable. It's not faster than the fastest human. You guys all doing 6 minute miles? Awesome. Good for you. Okay, so then the other thing I do in news is I go over quick limits. One limit that I saw since we met last is I love that I get to do this on Dustin's computer. Is I saw a whole bunch of AI sensitive data leaks. I saw this one here was pretty bad. And then the other one that I saw was I saw people vibe coding and dropping production databases twice using 2 different tools that are on the market. So we're not to the point where this stuff is doing completely autonomous work, right? There's still a need for us humans in the loop. And then on the side of progress, the biggest news things I saw is a Chinese model was able to, they fed it all the current research on LLMs, and it was able to come up with new novel ideas for new architectures that were actually really good ideas that will be implemented to make AI better in the future. So that was a pretty cool progress that was made. And then the other thing that I saw in the column of progress is that, it's the same one. Never mind, I didn't link them right. I saw something else that was cool, but I don't know what it was. That's why I rely on this. Okay, so now we reached the point where we do community announcements. Does anybody have job openings or other meetups that we should be aware of, and or anything that you want to share with the group before we get on to our featured presentation? Anybody hiring? Anybody looking to be hired? I know that we just had KCDC. I'm not sure what else is coming up in the community that people should be aware of. C# meeting? Okay. Excellent. Anyone else? We will, I just joined the AI Collective in Kansas City chapter. We will have announcements coming up, but I don't know what they are at this point because I've been too busy. So the AI Collective is a global organization. They have, I think, 70,000 members at this point. It's something that you can join. And there are groups in different cities or whatever. And they do a lot of virtual events. So like maybe Austin, someone who is doing vibe coding there, you could attend if you happen to be open that hour of the day during work. There's also, I think, some pretty active ones out in, I think, Baltimore or something. But it's called AI Collective, and you can search them out. And there's different chapters. There's a Slack, and they have a lot of different events coming up that you can. Oh yeah, we have Google too, don't we, Dustin? Yeah. Oh, this is KC. Yeah. Yeah. Is this the route? I'm not sure. Awesome. Yeah, they do a really good job with that. I like that they moved it from the hotel that they originally had it in. I like it at UMKC quite a bit. and they try to keep it affordable every year. I really appreciate that. Some conferences in town are not as affordable as they used to be. Half the number of days, 3 times the cost. Oh, got it. Dev sides? I'm sorry, I'm missing it. Oh, data science. Okay. Yes, they're an awesome group too. Data Science KC. Yeah, definitely check them out. And I see one more hand. Yeah, this one piqued my interest. They're going to talk about AI and RAG. Yep.
AI club, they scheduled their meeting that was supposed to be last week. And it's not. It's going to be an AI. Be interesting at the KC Co-Lab. I haven't been to one of these before, but it's something we got all the area and stuff.
Yeah, I think they had like a 5 or 10 minute limit. They're going to try to do a lot of them really quickly. Awesome. Yeah, we'll try to put them on the meetup.com. I'll leave those open and then we can just copy them over.
We'll post the video of this too. We've got the screen recording, so we'll make sure that gets posted.
Yep. And then updates. We are at this awesome space that we're trying to help because the parking here sucks. So thank you all for coming out. That's awesome. Make sure you tip the wait staff really well, order some food and some beers. But we may be outgrowing this space. We get to the point where we have standing room only or whatever. So if there are companies that have event spaces and are willing to let us sit in there for a night or whatever, let us know. Or if anybody is willing to get to the point where we can have someone pay for pizzas to sponsor us, like we are totally open to that. Check with your company, see, since COVID, discretionary funds like that have seemed to have dried up, but some companies may still have them. So reach out to Dustin, Ben, or myself, because we would love to move this to a corporate office or somewhere like that in the future. It might have more space. But yeah, thank you. I don't know what that is. Do you have someone you can put us in touch with? Okay. Awesome. Yeah. We'll look into that. Okay. Awesome. All right. With that, I will hand it over to Marcus. It'll be based on where you have your sound going on your. Yeah, I would. I can. Sorry.
Oop, sorry, this is cool. That was it. All right, can everyone hear me okay? All right, great. Cool. So oh, sorry, I forgot to share, didn't I? Yep. All right, let me do the share here. Guys, at least need the share started, right? Man. Share screen. Oh man. There we go. All right. Not really done. All right.
Still going. See you on camera. Wonderful northern lights back
Yeah.
there.
All right. Cool. Let's see. Nah, I think if as long as audio is good through this, I think we should be good. So hopefully, yeah. All right. Cool. All right. So, all right. So today we're gonna be talking about cooking with context and Claude Code. So who am I? I'm Marcus Ruether. I'm a husband and father of 3 little ladies. I just love being around water. My kids started Taekwondo in the fall, and then I kind of followed them in January, and it's been like just a blast, like good exercise and stuff like that. So, and then I really enjoy board games and whatnot. So, a little bit about me work-wise is last few years. I was working at AMC Theaters, fantastic place, was awesome. But then COVID happened, and they kind of got shut down more or less, so didn't really look like they had a great future. So moved on, spent 5 years in the fintech space in different roles, tech lead and engineering manager. And actually Wednesday, I started a new job at a company called Veritas Prime. They're a payroll company here in town. So yeah, thank you. The fintech place is a little bit sketchy on pay, regular pay. So figured payroll company would be an upgrade. All right, so the agenda for today is simple. We're going to talk a lot about context and then get into Claude Code. And yeah, so yeah, just I guess one little bit step back. So I've been in doing software development for about 16 years. And I think one of the things that I really want to do is do it for another 16 years, right? So that's kind of what drove me to kind of jump in and really try to get familiar with all these AI coding tools, because I just really want to keep my skill set relevant and then just make sure that, you know, I'm on the cutting edge of how to do stuff with it, so that my skill set is always relevant. So I really liked last month's speaker. He started with what is vibe coding to kind of make sure everyone's on the same page. I think it's producing software while relying on AI agents to write all code. But then it's like, well, what do humans do then, right? I think you just play technical lead. So you're providing context, writing requirements, reviewing plans, and you're reviewing the changes. So you're just making sure that the quality is there and just, yeah, playing tech lead. So I think when you first download any AI agent coding tool, you basically get the junior developer, right? Well-intentioned, ambitious, super fast typing, but lacks experience, project knowledge, product knowledge, and will wreck your code base. So we don't want that. And so here's a little short video that used Google's VO3 to make, kind of a little silly thing, wrecking a room. So what we really want is the mid to plus level developer experience, right? Attempts to get full understanding of the task before starting, understands the key integration points before starting, plans out an approach, codes, tests, reviews, and documents. So much more organized. So you know, knows what they're going to do, knows what they have to do, and they do it, right? So that's what our goal is. And a lot of that is just context, right? So giving it the information it needs to do a good job. To me, context in one word is communication. Just like any employee in a company, right? You got to know what you're trying to do and about the project and product. So two main things to me that you need to communicate to your AI agent, regardless of what tool. I know I'm going to go with Claude Code, but this hopefully is applicable to pretty much anything, right? So knowledge, right? You need to have project knowledge, the structure. So anything you can give up front to the agent to kind of be awareness of your project. So like a little tree hierarchy of your project, like all the different directories and kind of a little note about what's in each directory can really helps it get going. Some baseline product knowledge is great. Then just like your conventions and standards and rules, and then your framework versions. If you don't have a framework version specified, it's just going to start just trying random things. It could be doing old frameworks or new frameworks, and you get a lot of compatibility issues. So specifying your framework is important. So the goal is so that's like kind of your baseline knowledge, right? That sort of persists. And then whenever you start a task, you provide a goal, right? It's the task at hand. Traditionally, people will call this the prompt, but prompts are just kind of like one thing and don't really represent. There's not a lot of information, right? So what you really want to try to do, yeah, that's what it's like. You want to plan, right? So you might start with a prompt that's maybe like your requirement, like little spec requirement you pull from Jira. Maybe you make that your prompt, and then you turn that into a plan for the coding agent, right? So you'll have it explore the code base, figure out what it needs to do, present you with a plan, and then you execute. Sure. Okay. Oh. So, oh. Okay, let's see here. Oh, just the share on Zoom. Oh, okay, I gotcha. So share, I did my entire screen earlier. Is that okay? Are you, are you sure? Okay, sorry. Oh, desktop two. This. So that's what you're seeing. Okay, that's good then, right? Okay. Oh, not flipped in that mode, huh? I don't know. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. This is fine. All right. Okay. Yeah. No worries. Let's get back to where we at. All right. Okay. Yeah. So, so we covered like knowledge and goal, right? Knowledge is your baseline product knowledge, and then the goal, what you're trying to do. I kind of think for us as like the technical person trying to produce the result, it's like, am I doing this or is AI doing this? I think the answer is like AI does the work with the foundation and the guidance that you provide. And I think that's why like you see two different people can get vastly different results or have very, very different experiences with AI coding agents is, one person, if you put in the effort and try to really get to know your tool and establish that baseline knowledge, you're going to have a way smoother experience with everything you do going forward. And it's just a constant improvement, right? Every time something goes a little bit sideways, you go and update your context files, and we'll get into what those are later. And so then hopefully don't have those same kind of things repeating over and over. So what do you need to provide the agent? Basically project knowledge, like the structure, an overview, so a little bit of product knowledge, and the framework versions, kind of repeating myself here a little bit. And then conventions, standards, and rules. So I like to think of like, if you have a new employee, what are the things that you like tell them over the first 6 months and like you train them, right? Like if you're a technical lead and you have some developer doing some coding, they submit a pull request, you review it, and those kind of like company standards that maybe aren't common everywhere, but you need to kind of communicate it like, sort of just the common patterns of your code base and that your company does follows, like those should be captured in like your context file for your AI agent so that it doesn't keep making the same mistakes and just kind of right away just does what you want, right? And then things sort of like, I don't know, I don't know about you, I've worked at places where like you find something like, what is going on here? And they're like, let me tell you the story of my people, right? And like there's some big history behind why something was done a certain way. So you might want to give a little bit of context on why kind of weird things, there might be some weird things that you see in the code base and just kind of let it know about that. And just be aware of that kind of stuff. No, I don't know. I mean, yeah. I mean, the one thing you can do is like say required reading like real big and like emphasize it. Because a lot of these are, what's up? Yeah, you could, yeah, yeah. Right, but yeah, so like in the Claude context files or like any of the AI coding tools, like you can specify like if you stress urgency on something, it will actually just know that that's more urgent and like do a better job of like following that. They're like Claude Markdown files, so just like Claude.md. They're just Markdown files, but yeah, we'll get into that in a little bit too, and like but yeah, they're just places where you can add anything like that, and you can express emphasis where needed to really drive home a point, and it actually does a pretty good job of picking that kind of stuff up. So, what is the end goal? Is to provide enough context, enough information, so it can do a great job, but not so much that it can't track everything and gets mixed up. So if you just start throwing like just all kinds of stuff at it, one, you're going to bloat the context window, and it's not going to be able to have much context left to focus on the actual task at hand. And it's just going to get mixed up if you just give it too much stuff. So the different coding tools have different approaches to help manage that, and we'll kind of touch base on that too in a little bit here. So little thought exercise. Imagine you're a new hire and you're in charge of a product, either a product owner or software developer, and all the people who had the knowledge of it are gone. Also, there's almost no documentation on the product, tech stack, CI/CD, or basic coding standards. You're expected to figure it out. How do you feel? You probably feel like you've been set up for failure, right? And when you first download any coding tool, that's basically the scenario it's in, like the situation it's in. So your goal and your job kind of as someone using a tool like that is to provide it all the information it needs so it can do a good job and it can succeed. So kind of almost think it as a new hire, and just that's what you're kind of trying to give it everything it needs to succeed. All right, so probably like tens of minutes. So the so basically the different models have like context windows, and it's like how many tokens it can store. And think of that as your short-term memory, like a developer or just whatever you're doing, you kind of get in the flow, and it's just the information that's sort of juggling in your head about that task at hand. So they have these context windows that just kind of fill up, right? So you're trying to sort of throttle it to where you get enough that it can do a good job, but you're also like leaving enough for the task, like and it fills up, and then there's other things that happen to deal with like the context window has been filled up, right? I have a little example for that here in a little bit as well. Yeah, yeah. Right. Yeah, you can break things down, and then you kind of have to give it. You have to create documentation though that it has access to that lets it know about the other microservices and where it fits into the bigger picture too, right? So there's, yeah, and so that's like there's basically ways to like there's ways you can kind of get it to persist, right? So maybe you have it create documentation like markdown files, or you can give it an MCP tool, or something like that. Maybe you can reach out to Notion or some other document like Jira or something, some other documentation store. So you can, there's ways to work around that. I have a little sample project like a little personal project I'm working on that I'm gonna use as a sample later. I just use markdown files in the project. to help kind of persist long-term knowledge. Yeah, so coding agents, just it's a natural ability to read structure and everything. The agent context files, these are like the really big things that kind of what we're talking about, like just the persistent baseline knowledge. MCP tools lets it do things that it normally wouldn't be able to, but also maybe you can add one to give it access, like read access to your database. So it can go out and, hopefully just maybe running locally or a dev environment, right? But it can go out and get information and whatnot. So I have a slide for each of these, so we'll go into that. So the coding agent's natural abilities. Agents' ability to deduce context from exploring the project structure and key files, how different tools discover relevant context and determine what is important is below here. So Windsurf, when you first open it, just this is kind of a talking point, like how different things work, right? So Windsurf, when you open it, it goes through and reads through every single file and kind of like creates like a little search engine of it. So whenever you every like request in the conversation, it goes and tries to find files that are relevant to that message in the conversation and pull in those files based on what it indexed. Klein and Claude Code basically just use a lot of like command line tools to do searching and like regex and just stuff like that to search files by name and content. So they're just kind of different approaches, and it's kind of good to know how they go about it. So let's see, context window management. So this is kind of your question earlier about how long is the memory. So different tools have different ways of managing it. So this is really just within one task. So Klein keeps the very first message, like the very first prompt you give it, it keeps that always. And kind of acts as a first in, first out queue. Oh, are you seeing it? That's sharing? Oh. What's up? Okay. Well, yeah, but you can. Okay, yeah, there we go. Nice. Okay, okay. It's exciting. Sweet. Thank you, sir. All right. Cool. Yeah, yeah. Nice. All right. Cool. All right. So we're gonna back up here. So Klein, just for context, is another. It's like an open source coding tool, or AI coding tool, and it's a plugin for Visual Studio. It's pretty good. It's what I used until I found Claude Code. So, so the way it kind of manages context is it keeps the first message in the conversation, like your prompt, and then acts as a first in, first out queue. So as the context window fills up, it just starts dropping off all the old stuff except for the very first message. And Claude kind of just fills up his context window and then does like a compact where it summarizes everything and then continues on. So here's like just a little visual I made. So like you're going through, it's having a conversation. The original message is in green, like your very first prompt. And, it's getting close to reaching its context window max. And okay, so it's reached its max, they're kind of at the same page, but now Klein just starts replacing the original context with the most recent messages. Whereas Claude Code compacts everything that happened before it and figures out, like creates a summary of what has been done, what the current focus is, and then maybe like 5 to 10 key files, and it passes that on. So now whenever it picks it up after the compact action happens, it has, what the goal is, what has happened, and it will read those 5 to 10 key files and sort of carry on. So it has it's a pretty slick way. I mean, they both have their pros and cons, but it seems to be a pretty slick way of handling it. And it'll just keep repeating, right? Sometimes, if you're using Claude Code and it kind of says like, hey, you're 15% away from reaching your context window, you can tell it to compact now, and then you can kind of control the narrative going forward rather than it just sort of like doing what it wants. So you can manage that a little bit there. Yeah, you can. But it used to show that by default, and now it like just kind of you have to hit like Control R or something to expand it. But you'll see the files it'll list out. But yeah, you can definitely get access to that.
summary of this?
No, you can't. You can just, since like you would just basically add in a chat conversation, right, and just tell it kind of going forward what you're wanting. Let's see here. Now I'm in. Now it's showing this. I've never seen this. Yeah. Yeah. And all right. Yeah. So it will create a task list, and it will pass that task list to the next, like after the like the conversation is compacted. It has like a list of to-dos that it's working through, and it'll pass that on. So it creates that summary, key files, and it'll pass on that to-do list that it's trying to do. And so then it'll just keep working at the to-do list. So I personally like to create like plans up front and have that generate markdown file. So I have like a project, like here's what we're working on, and then a task list that's also in markdown, and have it update that as it goes. That way, like you have the full project context forever that it can reference. And if it feels like it's getting lost, I'll just like, hey, go refer back to the project plan and the task list. Well, if you can kind of see what it's doing, right? And if it's like if you're watching it, and you kind of are, right? Yeah. I mean, you are and you aren't. Just, but yeah, I mean, I like to do the markdown so it persists and just keep referring it back to that. So I'll compact, say, pick up the task, refer to the markdown, and like, yeah. So it'll just keep on going on there and working on the task list. Yeah. Um, I mean, you kind of it loses a little bit of whatever, like, I don't know, it might lose some big picture stuff, right? Because it knows what your like goal is that it's actively working on, and it passes that forward. And that's why I like to have like markdown files that sort of persist um, those compact actions. No, no. I mean, it kind of knows like it has a, so that task list kind of keeps track, like it keeps track of the high level bullet points of what it's doing. So it knows that if something is done and it doesn't need to redo it. Mhm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think that seems about right. Yeah. Hmm. Hmm. Right, right. Yeah, and then right, right, and yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah. So that's actually like, yeah, that's kind of my process too. It's like I create the markdown file and kind of keep referring back to it. And if something changes in the plan, right? Like let's say you get in there and like, oh man, the plan wasn't quite right, or the task, like, then I tell it to go update the plan and the task checklist to match reality, no longer, like, you know what I mean? So that it keeps getting updated. And then what I like, I'll get to it later, like hopefully during the kind of like a demo, but What I really like about Claude Code is like it has a lot of flexibility. You can basically create workflows. So what I like to do is at the end, if the plan is always being updated as it's going, I have a sort of document command or prompt that basically says, look at the plan and what's been completed, and then go update, search my local documentation, find relevant files, try to update it if you can, otherwise create a new file. That way you're like always building into your process, you're just building in the process of getting good, like keeping good documentation and keeping it up to date. So that creates, for the next agent that comes across, like the first command is like, hey, go look at the documentation for any relevant documents. So, I mean, the documentation is more like think of capturing what is in the system, like what the system is, not necessarily the task that you're trying to apply, like the change you're trying to apply to the system. So it's more of trying to capture what is done for the next person to come through. So that's like the documentation. But then I like to create like a project plan document that is sort of short-lived, right? Like, it'll get committed and everything and like checked in while you're working on it. But then at the end you can delete it or keep it. It's kind of your call. But I tend to clean those up after I've run my documentation command, and it takes the project plan, puts it into like the central documentation spot, and then I clean it up. So, all right, so we're here. Okay, so I showed that visual. Yeah, so Klein does the history truncation, first in, first out. All right, so one kind of cool thing that is coming out, Claude Code just introduced it a few weeks ago, is subagents. Is the shape? Let's see, man. What is going? Let's go. Yeah. Duplicate. Dang, it's crazy. I have to keep doing that. Okay, cool. All right. So they've introduced this thing called subagents, where you can create basically subagents that like the top level agent that's doing the work can just start delegating tasks out. And what's really neat about that is, one, you have agents they've got extra context that is specific to the type of tasks they're doing, but also the top level agent's context window isn't getting filled up. So like that short-term memory, it's just focusing on the high level things. It's like, hey, I need a form added that does this, right? It doesn't actually have to do all the work and think about adding the form. It just asks a sub-agent to do that. So now all it knows is like form is done, and that's what it's tracking, right? So it becomes like a high level orchestrator. So kind of if you're doing your single agent model that a lot of them are doing right now, its context window is just constantly growing. Whereas like if you're doing the orchestrator approach, its context window is staying small because it's delegating out stuff to the sub agents. So, you get done, your task is done, like you did your research, you did your back end, you did your front end. The orchestrator is just staying focused on the high level plan and making sure everything is getting done, which lets it persist and do like longer tasks, right? So it can do bigger projects without having to compact its context window at all, which is pretty cool, right? Because now you can do bigger things and delegate stuff out to more specialized agents, which is pretty powerful. The one kind of thing is like whenever it does the delegation, like you and your user interface doesn't really give you a whole lot of insight into what the sub agents are doing. So it's feels a little bit more black boxy when they're doing work than whenever you're just watching the main agent work. So they don't. They're always kind of. I feel like that's probably something that they're going to figure out here real soon on how to like increase that, because I think it's a common complaint. So they don't right now, but yeah, like that. People have been asking that like on Reddit too, and like people are like, they're gonna add that any day probably. Something they're probably gonna fix. So they seem to just be adding like stuff like crazy. So, yeah. So, oh man, what is going on here? Sorry, I haven't given a PowerPoint presentation in some time, so please pardon my skills issue here. All right, I think this is the one we're at, right? And then, yeah, I probably should. Let's see. So where is, all right, let's hit play. Yeah, like I think, or is it F6? Maybe start from current slide. Man, this is start from beginning. Slideshow. Oh, there we go. That's what I was needing. Perfect. All right, cool. We're back in business here. All right, so AI agent. Basically now every tool calls it something different. So Windsurf has like the Windsurf rules. Klein has Klein rules. Claude has Claude MD, and basically everyone has a file that lives in the root of the project that is sort of the baseline project knowledge that an AI agent will have. One kind of issue is, especially if you start having bigger, more complex projects, is that file can get really big really quick and start to lose meaning. And different tools have different ways of kind of handling that. I really like Claude's way of doing it, and if you're here last month, Cursor kind of does it in the same way, where they take a directory based approach, where like every directory or subdirectory can have a Claude MD file, and if you're 5 levels deep and there's a Claude, like it reads a file, it'll read the Claude MD file and every like traverse it back up to root and read every Claude MD, so you get the context that is relevant to everything that could potentially be relevant. Yeah, so this is kind of just some examples of stuff there. About that. All right. Coding agents. Yeah, so yeah, we kind of talked about the knowledge and different things. So yeah, this is kind of, I actually kind of started talking about this already, but so Windsurf, they have a Windsurf rules file, but it's like limited to like 6,000 characters or 6,000, like it's very small, right? You can't really put much in it, but they have a separate system called memories, where it's basically, it basically indexes, like you tell it your rules and it kind of just indexes those. So as it's working on any task, it just tries to find if there are any relevant memories. But it's pretty slick, but what I don't like about it is you can't really, they're not source controlled, right? Like you don't see them in your project. You don't really know if something changes. It says that it's always creating and updating memories, but you don't really have any insight to what's happening. So you're just kind of trusting that it's doing it, which I don't know. I like to see like a file checked in of all my rules, and then the other weaknesses, right? Another team member checks out the project. How do they get the same memories? So I think you probably end up just creating like essentially like the Klein rules or the Claude MD file, and just tell it to read that and create memories from it whenever someone else on the team checks it out. So I don't necessarily care for that, just because of it's not something that can be put into source control. Yep. It persisted on your local machine, but it's not, yeah, and it'll reload it up and load it in, and yeah, but it's just like but to me, like if you're trying to build like a team workflow and establish a baseline knowledge for everyone who's working on the project, to gain from, that feels like a little bit of a funny way of doing it, but you might, I don't know. It's weird because it lives outside of your project, right? So you'd have to like tell it to like read up somewhere else from your file system, and you'd have to maybe add some sort of little, some sort of mechanism. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Maybe if you go find where it's saving those, you could potentially. Yeah. Yeah. um, and then like, so Klein, they originally started with just a Klein rules file in the root. Then they changed it to where now you can have a Klein rules directory and like a bunch of different files in it. And then if you go to the user interface, you can toggle on and off which files you want. Because like it basically by default just combines every file that is in that directory, which can just blow up your context window with a bunch of stuff that doesn't matter to the task at hand. But then you have to manually go in there and toggle open like on and off stuff. So, and then Claude has the hierarchical loading system that we talked about earlier. I would show all these. Maybe I will later next time I switch out of the presenting screen, but it's just been a pain switching back and forth. So we'll get to that later. I'll touch base on those again later. All right. So let's see, we have MCP tools and CLIs. So does anyone know what an MCP is? It's basically, yeah. It's basically, you can install like basically tools for AI agents, right? So it's a tool you install, the agent will become aware of it and just start naturally using it. And a great one, I think some of the essential ones are like are Context 7, some sort of database tool, and then Playwright or Puppeteer that lets, like if you're doing user interface stuff, that'll let it pop open a browser and actually start like, testing stuff, right? It can open it up and like if you have an issue, it can actually go and see that issue, right? Like if something's not rendering right, it'll open it up, go to the page you told it to, take an image, like take a screenshot, and it then can see what's going on. And it can also pull like logs from the browser and help troubleshoot. So that's like Playwright and Puppeteer can do that. I have CLIs on here too, because like not everything has to be an MCP. So like if you have a CLI, so like for database, maybe you have like the PSQL tool. It can connect to the database instead. So any kind of command line tool, you could just basically in your agent's context file, just tell it about the tool, right? Like just let it know that the tool is available, and it'll just start using it. So it's an easy way, just to install the command line tools and let the agent know about it. And it can be simpler than the MCPs and sometimes smoother working. So just another option there. So Context 7, it's a really great one. So I do have a little video for that. I need to switch those windows. Oh no. Hold on. Let me get this switched over. All right. Context 7. This is the best representation I could think of for it.
Separation first. Let's make it look shit. Just a little fun about combat training. Jiu-jitsu. Or learn jiu-jitsu.
Okay, so scene from the Matrix. Yeah, so basically, I think to me that's kind of a good Windows P. Yeah, we're back to Windows P here, and then PC and screen only. Is that what we're doing? No, I was on duplicate, and then that was yeah. Here, usually if I hit escape, yeah, I just been hitting. All right, we got. Yeah. All right, so Context 7 here, what it actually is basically somebody put together this like crazy amount of libraries that just have all kinds of context about every tool, right? So anything like, so Next.js, and you can basically say window not, like let's just say window not loading, right? And so bang, it basically creates a streamlined kind of scenario specific batch of context for that particular tool, so or that particular framework. So this is a Next.js one, right? And so if you add in the Context 7 MCP into any of your coding tools, and kind of let it know maybe up front like what kind of frameworks to use it for, whenever it comes across an issue, like in your file is you got to kind of tell it to use it, right? But it'll go out and look for it, and it'll immediately just you'll start getting a lot better results. So like it's kind of crazy. It's kind of like in the matrix there. You're just basically plugging in like relevant context, scenario specific. So it's just a great way to give it really good documentation about different frameworks and whatnot. So. Did we cover everything on there? I think we did. Yeah. Documentation. So this is kind of what we were talking about earlier about persisting knowledge. You can use like a local file system, which I've been having pretty good luck with that. But there's also MCP tools for various different, I don't know, like documentation and ticketing systems and whatnot. So like Notion and Obsidian, and I'm sure there are more. I'm sure there's one for Jira and whatnot. So yeah, so you can basically kind of give it any kind of plug in whatever you want for documentation here, but it's good to give it some source of product knowledge through this. And, you know, or if you have like technical documentation that is important that it might need in certain scenarios, you could add that too. All right, so, you know, a lot of people talk about prompt, there's prompt and engineering and all that jazz. I feel like we've kind of moved on past that now. So the prompt kind of just acts as the pillar of context, but then you use that to build out a deeper plan that represents your goal. Sorry. Yeah. I mean, to me, the requirements in the prompt are kind of the same thing. So like your requirement for the task at hand, I guess he broke it down, right? I remember he had like a conversation and it pumped out like 20 different requirements, right? And he took one of those and plopped it in. So that would be like your prompt, right, to get this task started. But then like what I like to do is before having it start on that, actually go ahead and create a plan and present me with that plan so I can see everything that's happening and what it's planning to do. And for me, as like as more of a you know, if you're just yeah, he totally could have, right? And I think it's like, you know, if you're just pure vibe coding and you don't care. Yeah, well, there's the actually different tools have ways to get like put it into planning mode. And so if it's in planning mode, then it'll just basically explore and you can just keep asking it questions. And it'll just keep presenting you with new plans until you get something that's good. And then you flip it out of planning mode and say execute. So yeah. So, you know, I think he was kind of trying like if you just go pure vibe, then you don't necessarily go with the plan. You just plop it in and go. And but yeah, so like yeah, it's like, you know, I think there's probably a lot of people who are like, how do I make this work for my like legacy system that has tons of complexity and all that? And you really have to let it just like dig in, and you want to see it present you a plan before it makes any changes. That way you can really ensure success. So you can tweak the plan before it starts. Yeah, it doesn't hurt. You're right. Yeah. Yep. So yeah, basically you do some exploration and discovery. Helps the agent and probably you a lot of times. Like it'll throw stuff at you that maybe you weren't familiar with, and helps you understand, you know, the change better. So the result is hopefully an actionable plan from your what would have just maybe been your like task requirement. So wanted to just kind of give. So now we're gonna talk about context to death here. So hopefully you guys have taken away something from that. Next, just kind of get into Claude Code. We'll give a feature overview and then kind of get into hopefully a live demo here. Planning mode, one of the first things I mentioned because I think it's really important. They have a plan mode. You basically hit Shift Tab and it puts it into plan mode. And so at that point, yeah, you just start having a discussion and building up this context window, and so that you and it are on the same page. They added a really kind of neat thing because there was a complaint. A lot of times people want to use Opus, which is their more powerful model for planning, but it also like you only get to use a little bit, and your subscription only includes a little bit of Opus usage, right? And I'd always forget to turn that off once I started coding, and then I'd use up all my tokens in like 10 minutes, and so that'd be sad, right? So now they've added this new option where you can say Opus plan Sonnet code, right? So so now it does, you know, the planning up front, which is when you need your big brain, and then Sonnet does all the execution. So once it has a really great plan in place, it can just execute the plan no problem because the thinking has been done. It also creates like a little to-do list, so you can see like a to-do list, and it'll just check them off in the user interface there as it goes. They've introduced this thing called commands or slash commands, where you'll see something like, initially they just have their own commands for a lot of their stuff that they've added in, but you can start creating markdown files that are basically just prompts, but like it makes them really easy to like re-execute, and you kind of parameterize them a little bit. And I'll show that here in a little bit too. So you can make one called like /explore. So you'll have a file in your commands folder called explore.md, and it might provide some instructions on how to explore the project. So you can give it a description of what you want to explore, and it'll go off and explore it, right? It has a lot of tools built in for searching the web and reading and writing. And you can give it access to all kinds of other things, just command line tools or MCP as well. As talked about earlier, they introduced sub agents, which like to me, this is huge. There's two types of sub agents. There's tasks, which are just basically, it kind of makes up, like it's not a predefined agent. Just if there's some task that it decides like it should delegate, but it doesn't want to fill up its context window, it can just do that. Or you can tell it to do it in a task. And you can tell it to do things in parallel. Like, so it can start, doing 3 different things, like 3 different research tasks at once, because you told it to do things in parallel, which is pretty neat, especially when you're trying to do that research up front. It's checked in. Yeah, right now, like I know for like a lot of things, you can have it stored at a user level too, where it'll exist outside of the project if you like want to have it on your own. But I don't know if the agents, I actually don't know if they have a way to have those exist like for you as a user rather than just in the project. But yeah, basically the sub agents act just as another tool for as far as the top level agents concern is. They're just more tools, but you get to define them. And then another cool Claude Code feature that they recently added is called hooks. So there's all kinds of events like pre-tool use, post-tool use, so like before it's going to write or after it's going to write. And then there's like matchers that kind of like, there might be a post-tool use event that then has a to-do write, like it's going to go update the checklist. So you can make something that says like every time it checks an item off the list, it's going to go and do some task, right? Like, so you can create these little hooks that sort of help drive your development process. So like one thing that I struggled with, and you know how I said like I like to make it have a plan and then a task checklist, getting that agent to always go back and update the task checklist was like kind of a pain. So I made a hook that whenever the to-do was done and checked off, it would actually trigger an event, and then a separate little agent would get spawned off in a background process and actually review the work and then go check the to-do list and check off things that had been completed. So I sort of detached the review and checking off of the list from the main coding flow. Just kind of thought that it's been working pretty well. It's kind of neat. So do the demonstration here. So we're going to show off the slash command, and I think this is what's really great about the command line tools. And I think a lot of more and more companies are coming out with the command line ones. Is like you can really just build like workflows with them, and they're adding a lot of neat things to it. So let's see here. I'm gonna go ahead and. So this is like a little prompt I kind of came up with earlier, like a requirement, right? Let's see. So yeah, yes, yeah, it kind of is. They have like you have to. It's actually a command line tool, so you have to actually install it. And then Visual, like you have to install it on the machine, right? And then there is a plugin, so you can either use like a terminal, or if you're like there's this little orange Claude blob up here, you can click that and it'll actually just open up a tab, a Claude Code tab here. So then you can use it here instead. So far I'm still kind of in the mode where I like to use it in the terminal. some people like using it up here instead. It's kind of whatever you prefer. Like, I mean, if you're just wanting to work in tabs and all that going on, you can do that. But so it's real simple. Like once you have the command line tool installed, so I'm just in the terminal here, you just type Claude and it starts it up, kind of the same as what you saw up here. I do have a Claude subscription, yeah. So I bit the bullet and just got my own. So, and yeah, so kind of going off onto, so this is, so just to provide a little bit of context, this is like a personal project that I'm working on. Remember I said I like board games, so I'm making a tabletop FAQ website just for fun kind of, and hopefully I get it launched someday, maybe, we'll see. I started learning it, or started making it just to kind of learn Go, and then eventually just kind of like, you know what, I'm just gonna use it to learn AI instead, kind of use it as a test bed, and it also utilizes AI a lot in it as well as, yeah, so I did, the end goal is like if you're playing a board game and you like don't want to search through a 30-page manual, you can just ask it a question, and if that game is like indexed, it'll just give you the answer like a chat bot kind of thing. So, but yeah, so what's really cool is you can make your own commands, like something really useful, like if you want some random ASCII art, you can make an ASCII art command, and it's basically just a prompt that says, you know, you're an ASCII art creator that generates random fun objects. So just a really just kind of dumb, silly usage, right? But you never know when you need some ASCII art. And then I have another one where you can provide a description. So here's another one where it has an argument hint. So we can do ASCII art, and you see this one. Oh, maybe that one's not in there, but you can, yeah. So you could do like, so this one takes an input, right? So it's gonna create some Batman ASCII art. So you can kind of create whatever you want, and these are really just prompts, right? You're kind of bucketing up prompts. Here's the whatever you type in after the slash command, the description you type in gets pumped in as arguments, and you can just kind of tell it to do whatever you want with that then. So what I like to do with this, what I think of it as, is this is like sort of it lets you build workflows, right? Let it finish this art. Yeah. I don't know what kind of Batman that is, but yeah. So what I like to do is like I have these like project explore commands that really just kind of like force it to walk through all the things that you might want if you're starting a task, like architecture and service implementation and analysis. Go look at the database. Go look at the business logic, and I try to get it to do these things like concurrently. So each of the, instead of doing them one by one, if it's doing 3 things at once, that gets done a lot faster, right? And then once it has all of that, design the API. So this is like, go do the research on what we're gonna do, right? And kind of like give me some feedback on what, so this takes about 15 minutes usually to run, so it's kind of slow. So I did this at my house, and hopefully, if you, yeah, it's just kind of giving it some guidance. I mean, you can blow that out if you want. Right, yeah. So that's basically this here, right? This task right here. So it kind of creates a little sub agent that will go and basically say like, design the Postgres database schema changes needed for the future. So that kind of like what you just talked about there, right? It's kind of, it's saying like, here's all the things that, just in the discovery of this project, they kind of, yeah, sure. Like you're saying, and share it with you all, or yeah, I can do that. Sure. Yeah. 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 I found one where somebody was basically, they're excited that about the new task parallel feature, and they had basically they had something kind of similar but different purpose, where they had to spin off like 8 different tasks at once. And mine and I took that and said, like, I need a project discovery thing, and I had Claude Code write it for me, actually. So it kind of wrote it for me. But then I'm like, if it's doing 8 things at once, I kind of think like you got to do some baseline discovery before you design like the API, right? And things like the interface, right? So I broke it down into sort of phases, rather than having it all do it at once. Because if you spawn off 8 different things, like there's some parts that are important to the next step, right? The next step in design. So I kind of broke it down into like, phase 1 is just foundation analysis. It's 3 tasks. Phase 2 is API design. Phase 3, now you have the API design, you can do the client design and some kind of testing stuff. And then basically synthesize all of the information from the prior steps into like a good understanding. And then now this is just my exploration task, right? So then it presents me with its understanding, right? And then once we have a good understanding, then we can kind of create those documents that I mentioned before. So, what's up? Yeah, yeah, yes. Yeah, so this is, here, I'll just show you. So this is like a command, right? So when I was talking about slash commands earlier, I'll just kick it off just for fun, right? So any file that you create in here, any markdown file, whatever text in it is basically a saved prompt. So this one is project explore, right? And then I have this, I copy this requirement, like I need to add a feedback form to the consumer app that accepts the user email address, yada, 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 right? And so I kick it off. So it's basically running this as if I typed all of this out and then replaced arguments with the description that I put in, right? So it's basically, you can sort of package up your prompts into a very reusable manner, and you just type slash and you get autocomplete of all your prompts. So yeah, here it's doing the prerequisites check and pre-exploration. So it's looking at my documentations directory. So I have it set up to where, it's going to go out and, we can just look at here. So pre-exploration. So I say, go read documents product and documents technical. So it goes in here and looks if there's any good technical or any related technical or product documentation. So it's going out and looking in there, and then it starts, after it does that, then it starts like the actual phased. Yeah, you write it's basically you write a prompt, right? Like you do a really good job writing your prompt, and then the slash command turns it into like a really accessible thing, right? So you're not having to copy and paste your prompt, copy and paste your requirements of your task into it, and then copy and paste that all into the agent. Yeah. 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 I mean, there's probably Confluence MCP tools, would be my guess, right? So I'm using just documents because it's just quick and easy. I know there's a Notion MCP tool, so if you're using that instead, I know that's like kind of one of the new hotter ones out there, or popular ones and stuff like that. So, right, and that's where, right. Right. And so I have like, so back kind of like to the flow, I'm just, let's see. No, you're good. No, I was like, to the work. So I have like basically a workflow established. I might just go ahead and kill this one. So, cause it's just doing work for fun here, but, so escape, kill that, and hop back up to this one here. All right. So, before I had to go through that whole plan, right? So all the different phases. Here's that to-do list I was talking about earlier. That it kind of did it. You can kind of see it as it worked through. It just kind of like checked off the things that it had in its to-do list. until it basically now it has a good plan. So it kind of presented me with its like understanding of what's going on right now. And I looked at it and I was like, okay, this is all looks good. This bit content screening. So this is for a feedback form, right? I'm trying to keep it really simple for the purpose of this presentation. So I'm going to take the content screening. I'm just ask it to not do that. This looks great, but is out of scope. So just kind of like working with it to get it and I on the same page, right? To create to create the file, or for it to work through it. Oh yeah, it took about 15 to 20 minutes. So it's kind of what I feel like, this planning stuff, it's one of those things you kind of go slow to go fast. Because if you get a really solid plan, everything just goes more smoothly later, right? You're not just constantly fighting it and trying to get this agent back on track that's constantly getting sidetracked and whatnot. So yeah. So all right, so perfect clarification. So it simplified it. Yeah, just gonna say, like, let's say it has a good understanding, right? So the next thing that I do is project plan. So now this is gonna do, let's do project plan, and then I'm gonna give it a feedback form. We'll go look at this prompt or this command next too. So this is another just, custom kind of command file that I made. So what it's gonna do is it goes and executes this project plan. Let me make this bigger too. This project plan file here. So, make this. The timeline, it just kind of makes up one. You could probably tell it to not add a timeline, but it just adds one usually. Or maybe I misunderstood that there. What kind of time did you see a timeline in the plan file? Is that what you saw? Yeah, yeah. It basically will say like, oh, this is going to take like 3 days, right? And then it'll go do it in an hour or like 20 minutes. So it's kind of like I think it's kind of trying to like give a timeline as if a person is doing the work, but how accurate it is, I don't, it's kind of yeah, right. But it's really kind of cool. So then I have this project plan command, right? So it takes an argument of a project name, and then it says like go make a plan out of the current context. And one of the first things I have it do is like if you're not in it, like you can add in workflow parts of your workflow to it, right? Like okay, if you're not in a features branch, go ahead and make a features branch with that project name, right? So it's prompting me to like, hey, do you want to go create a feature branch because you're on master? You shouldn't be doing that. So yeah, let's go ahead and create that feature branch. So now it created a feature branch named features feedback form. And so, yeah, and then now it's going to go through and basically create a project plan. So, initially it tried to just put all of the code that it thought the project needed into this project plan. And, it's just kind of too much because if the plan veers at all, now you have all this code just dumped into this file that's not accurate anymore. So I had to really tell it to like focus on interfaces, maybe like just focus on the schema. Like that's an area where we need the explicit detail, but otherwise focus on integrations and stuff like that and high level design. But yeah, so it kind of just breaks down just how to go through the planning process. So then files to generate, a project plan file, and a task checklist, and we'll see what it pumps out here in a second. So yeah, sorry. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, for me, I've basically, so I'm on the $100 a month Claude Code subscription plan. If I'm just purely using Sonnet, like like, it basically lets you give 5-hour working windows with it, right? And then if you use up your tokens, you're done until the 5-hour window is open. I've like been rate limited on it maybe like twice. And sometimes I'll even get like, I'll have one thing working and open up, like create a work tree and start another task. And that's usually when I hit my token limit. Or if I'm using Opus at all, then you can hit your limit pretty quick. But the $100 plan, I can pretty much have one thing going all day and not hit my limit. Or if I do, it's like, it's going to refresh in 30 minutes or something. Yeah. It starts when you start. So yeah, it's no, it's funny. I guess like people, the abusers of it, right? Like they would set, like they had something that basically like they would have scripts that would just know when the limit was hit, like when their window was, and like restart it. Like so they could just automate it, and like they're having these like, there's this tool called Claude Code usage you can install, and it'll tell you your token usage, and people are spending like, based on if they were doing it through direct API, they're getting like $8,000 of token usage like a day or something crazy. And they're like having leaderboards on who could use the most tokens and just trying to maximize their like usage in those 5-hour blocks and just 24/7 having it go. Not, I don't know if they're caring about productivity even. They're just caring about getting the leaderboard on their Claude Code usage. It's just kind of, so now they put in limits. Now they added a weekly limit as well. So in addition to the 5-hour block window limits, they have a weekly limit. So if somebody's just like destroying it for like a day or two, they're done, right? Which is fair. I feel like it's fair. It got a lot of community pushback, but like to me, I'm like, that's completely fair to keep a product viable. So, all right. Okay, so all right, it asked me what's my name, what's the author's name for the commit. Yeah. So it's gonna go ahead and commit that. There it is. Should be able to see in source control here. So, okay, so it's adding some, boom. All right, so it added the 2 planning documents and committed those. So we can go to, I had it basically have it create a project plan, like a subfolder for every project, right? So, all right, so now we have our feedback form implementation plan. See the new table that it wants to create, list all the files and everything that it thinks it needs to create to make this happen, right? And then front end architecture, create some new pages. Yeah, so we're gonna say it looks good. And then a task checklist. And this is all Markdown, so you can get like a Visual Studio Code like Markdown editor plugin if it's not native. And so yeah, so now you can see here's all the tasks that it thinks need to be done. It kind of usually will break it up into phases, and kind of stops at the end of each phase to check in, sort of. All right, so what I like to do now is, now that we have our plan, like to clear the session. So we're resetting the context, right? And now I'm going to use the project execute feedback form. So now I have like another command in here, project execute. So this is what I say, like, it's really like you can just build like your workflow around this, right? So if you just follow this workflow, it creates like a level of consistency and a little bit more reliability about what your agent is doing. So yeah, so now you have, it's going and it finds the feed that says, create a branch if you're not in there. Go ahead and find the project directory based on the name that I passed into the command. So now you can see it's reading project plans feedback form, and it's reading the plan and the checklist, and it's going to go to town here hopefully and start executing it. So, so while it's doing that, all right, so you can see it created this to-do list, right? So it's going to basically work through this and check things off on this to-do list as it goes. And then now I'm going to talk a little bit about the hooks. So, yeah, actually, yeah, that's a great point. I should have probably started the demo with that. So yeah, here's your Claude MD. This one gets included on every conversation. This is kind of like my base one. I think it's like a good thing you set your framework stuff, kind of your high level. We're using Svelte, Go based backend, Go version 1.22. Some tools like I have some make commands. I have a make file that kind of wraps up some things. So like if it needs to start the dev environment, the local dev environment, it can run that. Where to find once the dev environment's going, if it wants to start up Puppeteer, it can do that and find the front end here or hit the API at this here. This is also a mono repo, so the API is in here, and then I have a consumer app website, and then I'll have an admin one. It's not there yet, but it seems like by grouping everything together into one repo, it makes AI has an easier time of just working on multiple things together and delivering. I feel like because all the context is right there in one project. You're not having to worry about it reaching cross project to know about what's going on in other projects. And then so your top level Claude file here, I just kind of give it some information about I said earlier, it's good to right away now it knows where to look for certain types of files and kind of understands the project structure. So doing something like that will really just kind of help it get to where it needs to go a little bit quicker with a little less searching. Yeah, so your top level one there, and then in the API, there's another Claude file, right? So if it opens any file in this directory, it's going to read this Claude MD file inside of the API. And then let's say we get into my handlers. There's another one for handler design and conventions. And then into the test for the handlers, there's another one that kind of goes through here too. So if it opens up a test file here, it's going to read this Claude MD file in the test directory. It's going to read the one in the handlers directory. It's going to read the one in the API directory, and it's going to read the root one. So it kind of scopes the context to what it's working on by just reading that hierarchy up to root. Huh? Yeah. It doesn't really seem to be. I mean, now if you're to put all of that into the root Claude file, and that was included on every conversation, and the fact that they're kind of placed where they're relevant, I think helps keep it under control. So you are right, they're getting longer, but model context windows keep getting bigger, and so so Claude Code's context window is 200,000. So, but yeah, it's a balance of getting it the information it needs to do a good job, and also you might have to refresh your context window more, but it's making less mistakes as you go. Sorry. The MD files, I just use Claude Code for the most part, and so usually I'll use it in the beginning. You can do, I think you can go into any directory and type init. Let me see if there's all right, let's go in here. So I'm gonna create a new terminal here. We'll go with Claude. I'm gonna go into the documents directory, and I'm gonna initialize Claude from within there. And then the first time you open up your project, you can do /init, and that will just tell it to go and start searching the that directory and subdirectory, and actually it's going up the directory and reading it as well. But /init is a great way to kind of get that initial Claude Code file created. But yeah, a lot of times I'll just tell it the directory and say go create a Claude Code file, explore everything underneath of it that's important, and create a file for future AI agents, and it'll go ahead and create a pretty good one. And then sort of as you go and things aren't going as you expect, you just keep telling it to hey, go add something to prevent this from happening again, right? Go add. Usually focus on positive examples, we do things this way, and a positive example. so that it'll just kind of do that. Sometimes you have to add the negative, like don't do this, but I've heard that people say like if you add too many of those, then it sort of gets mixed up and thinks that it should do those because it just has in its context that this is a, it just has the action in context and might miss out the don't part. Yeah, so we did. Yeah, but even if I do that, I'll typically just like I'll vibe add that. I'll say like go edit this Claude file and integrate this context in so that it kind of can read the whole file and put it into like a meaningful spot. And yeah, so I'm sure you could. Yeah, I mean it. Um, I'm sure you could. Yeah, because it can download stuff if you give it access to it. Like it and it has like a web search and yeah, I mean maybe there's like a package manager tool too that you could install like a command line for that, like the command line tool for the package manager, and like then it could definitely just utilize that to do that action. That might be a better way of going about it if your package manager has a CLI. Oop. Oh, yeah. Sorry, it asked me for permission. Well, we got sidetracked, so it's not really doing anything here. Um, so the first time it comes across something, it usually asks for permission to perform that. Oh, Claude Code Opus 4 limit reached. Oh, I must have been on Opus. Dang. Now using Sonnet 4. All right, so yeah, hopefully we don't run out of tokens during this demo then. Shoot. Um, all right, so yeah, yeah. I am surprised it's on Opus though. I don't. Hmm, yeah. Oh, good question. Yeah, great question. How do you specify what models to use? There's all kinds of commands here. So model, and then you can hit in model, and it'll give you a little selector. So I need to download the newer version of Claude Code on this computer. I guess I have it on my desktop at home, but there's another option that's like Opus Plan Sonnet Code that I mentioned earlier. So it's just not on here yet. I just need to download the latest. There's all kinds of stuff in here though. The compact command that I talked about earlier. Yeah, there's all kinds of different things. Oh, good question. I've only used Anthropic. By default, that's all they support. But there is somebody like made something else you can install on your computer called Claude Code Router. And it gives you all kinds of flexibility. Like you can even say like, for like search task, use, this model, and for planning, use this model. Like you can really get in, lots of configurability about what model is used when. Yeah, I've not used it yet. I've also, yeah, then it's bring your own tokens, right? Yeah. And then so the other thing that's really kind of cool is like as it's checking things off in this checklist. Let's see if it's actually doing it here. Yeah, check task checklist. So I have that hook that I talked about earlier that as things get checked off, off the to-do list down here, it spawns off another instance of Claude Code that says this task was just completed. Go review the task checklist and see if there's anything that like basically do a little code review and then check the item off. So you can see this change here. It created the table right for the feedback, and so it checked off the task here. So we'll look at the hooks real quick. So hooks are here. I had this post to do right task review hook that is just a shell script. So you can basically have it do anything you want after a hook event is triggered. So in the settings file, I have a to-do right matcher, and then it basically will call out to this shell script, and it passes in some of the task context. And what's really kind of neat is like it does some stuff here, but what's really kind of neat I think about it is it calling back to Claude. So here, it calls back to Claude, and it says use this prompt, and it pipes in some information about the task that was just completed. So then it goes in, and now it's executing this prompt for every time a to-do item is done, like in this task checklist. It executes this prompt with the context of I can get it down here, man. Yeah, it's all vibe coded. So yeah, I don't write code anymore. So sometimes you got to roll up your sleeves a little bit and like get in there and debug something that it's struggling with. But yeah. Oh yeah. Like it took a little bit because like it was just like I was working through like I couldn't get it to consistently execute because like basically the trying to like it doesn't have a great way of passing in the context of the hook event. And I think I'm hoping they added it in more later, but like it's basically this text gets passed in right as it checks it off. And so I can get that passed through, but then having it identify which task checklist to actually look at, because in my project plans here, I have like feedback form and I have a few other ones as well, right? And I had an issue with it just kind of picking the wrong one. So a lot of that, the shell script is trying to get it to pick the right project to update, and then also parse out the to-do description. But yeah, so one of the thoughts I had is just have it be project plan and only do one active project, and that would simplify things a lot as far as like having your task plan and task checklist. Like you don't have to like worry about it getting mixed up on what checklist needs to be updated, right? Because maybe it identifies maybe the task was like create feedback form for game page or something, right? Now all of a sudden it's going to try to be updating the task checklist for the game page directory. So some of it is working around that, but it's just really cool because in the beginning I couldn't get the agent to reliably go back and like update the to-do list in this markdown here, and by detaching it and adding the hook, now it's just like it just kind of cruises and updates everything and does a great job of tracking where things are at. So yeah, for the most part, yeah. I mean, what do you mean like license and copyright? Well, I don't think, I mean, so Anthropic, when you're using their tools, I don't think that they store it. I'm pretty sure that they don't store your stuff for like any kind of training purposes or anything like that. So I don't think there's like, you're not like exporting entire code base, right? Like it's collections of files for that specific task. Like if they really cared, maybe they could reverse engineer something over time, but I don't think that's their goal, because like they're Anthropic specifically is like heavily invested in developers. I don't think they would do anything that they thought would upset the developer community. But yeah. Mhm. Right. That's true. Right. Run it through your through the proper channels, like for tool acquisition, for sure. Yeah.
Lights.
Yeah. Yeah. No, because I mean, it just kind of does the work as it just works through it and codes it just like a person would kind of like. So the idea is that like is you try to come up with as much of a plan up front as you can, right? And then if most of the time when something goes on, I'm like, what is it doing? And I go back and look at the plan. It was just me being like, I didn't look at the plan close enough, right? And it's doing something that I didn't expect because I didn't catch it, but it was in the plan. So usually, if you can get a really good, clear plan up front, then it does a pretty good job of like actually executing that. Um, no, I mean, so actually, mhm. I mean, yeah, I mean, you could discard your work and adjust the plan and run it again. Is that kind of what you're saying? Yeah, I mean, you're just increasing your chances of success, I would say, every time you do that, if you wanted to. Or you could tell it to, make the change that you want and then go update the plan to reflect that. So that way the plan now matches, like everything is consistent going forward. Like if it has to reference the plan again, it has a good up to date understanding of what the plan is. Sorry, does that answer your question? Sorry. Okay. Yeah, kind of. And I mean, to me, that's just the whole thing is, right? Like you're constantly like updating your Claude MD files or your context files and things like that and just getting it better and better. And the same with your agents. So I just to touch on the agents real quick. So I have like a database architect, backend developer one. So I started putting things like conventions in there, and then like and I need to start going back to the context files and pulling some stuff out of the context files that now are like the agents are aware of. Because like if I have a backend developer and it knows all of the patterns and conventions, I don't really need the context file to say that. I just need it to sort of establish like project structure so that just generalist agents have an understanding, right? Because if they're not actually doing the coding, they don't need the context on like some specific Go conventions, right? So I'm in the process of kind of going back, kind of to your point, the context files are getting a little big earlier, and pulling some of that out. Yeah, I just kind of will say like, this agent does this thing. I think there's a lot of overlap in this Claude MD file. Can you remove from the Claude MD file what this agent knows, right? Yeah, yeah.
Do you use Git very much anymore, or Git commands, or just explain what you're saying?
I still use I use Git Kraken. I still use it a lot, but I mean, you can certainly tell it to just go ahead and commit anytime you want, and it'll do it. Yeah, I mean, it did that for me, right?
Like what you're looking at.
Mhm.
Say, right, change to the feature branch, name this, or do you actually write the
I usually go use my tool to like I use Git Kraken to do it, and yeah, it's just it's kind of like it's just like a visual Git tool. Yeah, it's my preferred one. Yeah, yeah. Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's a ton of them, and I think you get some of them like I think like Replit is like some of them are very opinionated, right? So if you're starting a new like greenfield project, brand new fresh project, and you are okay with someone else making all your decisions for you, like the technology stack, like they can just go to town because they're like pre-programmed with all of the context they need to build a great product, right? But then like you get something like you know you're wanting to do your own thing, or you're at work and you have like a lot of stuff you're just maintaining. That's like a different scenario. So then like something, you know, one of those more opinionated tools or you know stacks might not be as good of a fit. And that's why I think a lot of like the command line ones are great because you can just really build out your own workflows. I also like the ones, you know, made by like the model providers, because then you get like um, well, so like I mean Claude Code obviously I like because like they can give you discounts, right? Like you're going to get a lot more bang for your buck using someone's tool who also builds and serves the model. So like if you figure out a good workflow with like Gemini CLI or something like that, I think Open AI just came out with one too, or maybe they have one. What Codex? Yeah, I feel like those are the best. Like using the subscriptions through those are probably your best bang for the buck. And the I think all of the other tools are getting crunched now. I think that like the providers are starting to, you know, ramp up some of the pricing on them, and you're starting to see their prices go way up. So you just have to. I mean, to me, like if you're planning long term, I would probably go towards one of the providers and one of their tools and build your workflow around that. Now, some of them, like, you know, like I said, like some things will just produce like an amazing result really fast, but you know, long term, I don't know what the pricing around that kind of stuff will look like. So
Especially
yeah, yeah,
hardware stuff.
right, right. They can offer you more. Yeah.
Yeah, how to benefit.
Oh, sorry, what was that? I've not really looked at it too much. I know a lot of people just like it to have conversations with. Like I know a guy who just will talk financials with it and he loves it while he's driving. Like um so I'm not really, that's about all I know about it. He loves it. I don't know. I've not used any of their coding tools, no. So this says that it has something done. So I'm gonna say go ahead and test with Puppeteer. See if it can start that up. Um,
Yeah, last month, one of the benefits I thought was first such a model.
yeah,
Now if you're saying this, if there is a ship, you're shipping
Yeah.
a model,
yeah, yeah. Somebody,
that kind of takes that special.
yeah. So like, yeah, if you have unlimited, oh come on. Well, let's see.
Yeah, like I'll probably put this to like or have a fallback. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there. Local ones, like you get throttle speed if you have one. Resources.
I honestly, I like just like the Claude website has a ton of stuff. And then also honestly just like Reddit, the Claude AI group there, like if you're following that, you'll just constantly get notifications of new features and new stuff. And so I just kind of stay on top of it through that for the most part. What's that? Yeah. I mean, the Reddit is more of a notification, is more of a notification mechanism, but it kind of lets you help keep a pulse on what's coming out, and then I go read the Claude docs on new features. I'm sure there are. I haven't explored them. Yeah, I haven't yet. No, no. I can share. I mean, I can share some of these like for my main flow. Is there a way in Next 5 to meet up to post files? You know, or just maybe just share them somewhere else and share a link as a comment. Yeah. Okay. All right.
I was gonna say we have a Discord. Reach out, join. I don't know. There was a day where like everyone was Those seem to be distractions.
Yeah. Yeah. So
But yeah, on meetup.com, maybe.
yeah, I can do that. Okay. I want to give one honorable mention out here to Klein. I've been using. I kind of talked about it before. So while this is working, so if you have Copilot, right? A lot of people. That's one, especially in like a corporate environment. It's easier to get like approval for. And so if that's something you're able to, and it's like $10 a month, right? So if you're able to get approval for that, this is like the Copilot chat, right? Klein is another really good tool, and let's do like a new conversation. All right, it has so it has plan and act mode similar to Claude, so you can kind of do planning here and then switch to act. And what's really cool is you can change your model, one for the plan mode and one for the act mode, and you can pick from tons and tons of different providers. So, and then what's even neater is you can change your provider for plan and act mode. So, you have OpenRouter, Anthropic. You can, I guess, hook up Claude Code to it if you want to use it. Use your tokens from Claude Code subscription, Gemini, and just all of them, right? Now I have this selected, and the reason I mentioned Copilot earlier is if you're paying for your subscription with Copilot, you can pick VS Code LM API, and it'll actually use your Copilot subscription, and you get a little bit of like premium models with your Copilot subscription. So you could pick, Gemini Pro for your plan mode maybe, and then I think with Copilot you get unlimited GPT 4.1, like whatever their sort of default model is. You just sort of get unlimited that. So you could do your planning with Gemini and then have your acting with GPT 4.1, which is probably competent enough to execute some stuff. So if you're just kind of getting your feet into AI, like vibe coding, this might be a pretty cheap way to do it. Yeah. I mean, are you saying Klein or Claude Code? Yeah, yeah, yeah. You can use them. You should be able to use any of them. Like now, like some of those tools, like I think Replit basically will build everything, and it's like all web interface. I think. I'm not sure, but some of them have like all web interfaces, and like they'll just render everything for you. Here, you have to like set up, get it set up like a development environment, like where like a local environment where it'll spin it up and execute stuff. So it's working its way through here. So, but yeah, so it's trying to fix it right now. Let's go check back in on what it's up to. So yeah, it's just let me simplify the feedback page. It's basic. So you can just, while it's going, you can say like, I don't think it's just a layout issue, because it's just doing like, it's modifying HTML. I'm like, I don't think you're gonna get there. So like you can just basically, as it's going, you can just like put in a comment, and when it kind of hits a stopping point, it'll queue up your comments can be queued up, and it'll look at them. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so a lot of times, like if I have a frustrating experience like this here, right after the session is over, I'll be like, hey, were there any lessons learned that if we had known up front that we could capture to avoid it in the future? And a lot of times it's like, oh yes, of course. And then like, okay, go add that to the Claude MD file or to the agent, that like the sub agent for performing that task. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that's why you're constantly making it better, right? And you're and so like my front end stuff here, I just started this like 2 weeks ago, and then I like went on vacation, and like so it's very very fresh. So I haven't really polished it a whole lot yet, but I kind of wanted to try to show off something tonight where it would maybe do some back end work and front end work, just to kind of show that off. But So let's just go ahead and I'm gonna exit this. We're gonna pretend that that task has been done. I have a project review that I normally do where it'll kind of research and review stuff, and then a project document. And so it's just gonna go look at the project plan and whatever's on the task checklist and create some documentation on that. So now we're at, going back to the commands, the project document one. And it just kind of goes through and basically tells it to make some like kind of PRD style product documentation. And then if there's any more technical documentation that would apply, like any kind of graphs or architectural type stuff that would be helpful to know about in the future, go ahead and create, documentation for that or integrate it into existing documents. So yeah, so there it is. It's reading the current plan and the checklist, kind of refreshing its memory on that. And then it's going to go look at the documentation folder up here. So again, this is like all hopefully just giving you ideas of what can be done. Not to say that this is the right way to do it, but I've had a lot of success by pushing a lot of the planning up front and then executing and storing that plan in a file that can be referenced back to and kind of refresh its memory after, occasionally. Yeah. Let's see. Not so. I mean, I do test. I do test, right? I like have a lot of like component tests, like test the services, like input output test, but I don't typically do test driven. I know that's a lot of time, like it's like, shops sort of decide what approach they're going to use, but this project's certainly not doing that. This is like hobby project. You absolutely. I mean, you could make you can make commands that say like write all the tests for this project, right? That maybe that's your first step, right, in your plan. Oh yeah, yeah, yep. Hmm. Hey, hey, look, our feedback form is here. Nice, it got there. So,
Yeah. Based off.
like, oh, I don't know. I've usually just had it run the test for the task it's working on, and then I do the bigger. I mean, you could probably. I mean, if you had some tool that ran the code coverage and then like generated a report, and then tell it to go add in where there's missing coverage. Yeah, yeah, certainly could. I'm sure. Yeah. Um, yeah. Yep. Submit feedback. Success. All right. It says it successfully submitted the feedback. So, oh no, where'd my taskbar disappeared? Nope, there you go. There it is. Yeah, I mean it did it, and I picked send feedback, and it works. So yeah, trying to get my Chrome back. Here we go. All right, so now we can in theory there should be I don't know if anyone uses Supabase, but it's great for like you can spin up databases locally and whatnot. So there should be a feedback. And oh yeah, we got all kinds of records in here. So it's been submitting and during the course of its testing. So yeah, so we added a feedback form. It created an API and submitting it all, and see that here. So yeah, so you can see all the changes it made here. I know it's probably getting kind of late here. But yeah, so it created a feedback handler, and then it created a test for it. So presumably it ran the test for it. And yeah, so and then added a web page for it. So success. Yeah, so then we did. Let's check back in on the documentation here. Did added any or not? So yeah, kind of irrelevant, but basically that's the flow for how I do it, right? And again, this is just like hopefully this kind of like create some ideas on how you can create a flow for your personal projects, your company, and okay. All right, great. All right,
Yeah.
yeah, all
I
right,
think last time it was.
cool. All right. All right, so yeah, so I guess just final takeaways. Agents are good at writing code, and they try their best to figure out your product and code base. But each session, they are starting from scratch. Your job is to set them up for success. So you got to like remember that they're starting from nothing every single time. Provide knowledge and a clearly defined goal or plan. Know your tools, and then just here's a recap of all the features that I highly value from Claude Code. So, all right. Well, thank you guys. Sure.
Do you think, where would you put this? Are you 10x more productive doing it this way? Are you the same as if you were just writing the code yourself?
I mean, I would say like, in a 2-hour session. I mean, in like a morning, you could probably do what you're normally maybe doing in 2 or 3 days. Like, I don't know. Like that's just kind of my gut. Like, yeah. Like so, I mean, I'd say like in an hour or two in an evening, I can usually do what. Because like this is my side project, right? And I am using Claude Code for my daytime job as well, but it's more of a migration of like we're updating some Java apps and stuff. So it's not like we're delivering product and delivering value in that regard. So it's a lot harder to like, professionally say that. But like in my side project, if I get an hour in the evening, I can a lot of times, you know, you know, maybe do a day or two of work, like an hour or two in the evening, maybe like a task that's like a day or two. So, oh yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, to me, like it's mind blowing when I see the things that say people are only getting a 20% gain or even negative gains. I'm like, what are they doing? Are they like that? To me, it's just like there's people that just aren't setting up. Yeah, they're not setting up any of that context because it's like the first time, like, and it makes it really hard to judge new tools because you go get a new tool and they have a whole different like mechanism for managing context. So if you just give it the same prompt, you're going to get garbage out, and it makes it really tough to evaluate new tools unless you take the time to sort of convert what you have to that tool structure and understanding that tool. So, yeah.
You just vibe converted?
I mean, you could, right? Yeah, that's why it's like with Windsurf. I'm like, if I ever use Windsurf again, I'm going to say read all Claude MD files and make memories out of it, right? Like that's probably just how I would do it if I was on a team with Windsurf. Just start making. I don't know. I've actually also seen that there's some people trying to get an agent's markdown file as a standard so that like everyone will just like hopefully settle on that. So there's not like the Claude one and the Cursor one and the Windsurf and Klein. So they're trying to like somebody's trying to get a standard established. Whether that actually gets picked up or not, I don't know. Yeah, it makes sense, right? It's kind of like yeah, right, right, right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, right, right, yeah. Yeah, and then I forgot to mention earlier that little demo I showed of like Klein where it filled up his context window and just kind of like slowly replaced it. About a week and a half ago, I saw a press release where they switched to the sort of chunking mode that Claude Code is using. So I meant to call that out there, but that's no longer relevant. But I had made that little site like a couple weeks ago, that little graph site. So yeah, I mean, to me they're kind of all together. Like vibe coding is just using a tool like this, one of these tools we've discussed today to write code. Like it does all the writing, and you're just like, and to me, context engineering is probably the most important. Yeah, probably the most important part, regardless of tool. Because if you can get your context good and in a manner that the tool can understand it well, then you're gonna have a lot better day than yeah. Yeah.
That has it has like system prompts and tool specs and agent prompts, everything you can think of. Also, pretty much every coding assistant except for Claude.
Okay, nice.
Cursor, Windsurf,
Yeah, nice.
1500 lines of code.
Dang.
It's going through like all of
Yeah.
Get you off the ground.
Yeah. Yeah. And honestly, that's on Reddit. Like half the things are people just sorry. Yeah. And yeah, and to me, like the main prompt coding or prompt engineering inside of like Claude Code would be these command files, right? That then become the slash commands. Like these are basically just buttoned up, packaged up prompts, right? Yeah, yeah. You're just saving your good ones or ones that you can chain together to like create a good workflow. Like I made this one here called tech debt. So if I see it make some change that I'm like, I don't really want to interrupt its flow necessarily, but I do want to capture that I saw it do something a little funny. I'll just do like slash tech debt and then describe what I want it to capture. So once it hits a stopping point, it'll go and like I tell it to sort of categorize it, critical, medium, or low, and then just like create a little file capturing that tech debt. And then yeah, so that I basically have a repository of all the little things because it's like so hard sometimes just to like, otherwise I'm like making notes in Notepad or something that like I need to go follow up on this. So I just threw this in here and now I have it captured in a file that I need to go revisit something I saw that was, maybe it didn't even make a bad change, but I saw a file it was editing and saw something I didn't like there, right? So you could just just kind of just make your own little commands and do whatever. So anything to make your life easier, right?
All right, we're approaching that 8:30 time. And, again, I didn't put an agenda out there. The previous one said 8:30. Yeah. It'd be 3 hours from 5:30. So a couple of things. Awesome job. Another round of applause.
Thank you, guys.
We'll have on the schedule for next month. I think we're going to go on Thursday. Probably end up here unless someone reaches out to me to say that it's like a company or we are looking for those sponsors. That'd be awesome. So talk to either Ben Dustin. But we want to keep doing these things. I think it's really cool. We want to actually start building things, doing some type of big conference or something. We want to build a community. Tell your friends about it. Send the link. Next 5 is the easiest link. Next 5. No, or someone go meetup.com. Type in. But yeah, we'd love to have people continue to come out. I also need content. We can always fall back to I can do there's a million things that Google has, right? One thing I want to do at some point, data vibing, whether tools that I have are still in public, so they're on that line of whether or not I can talk about them inside an NDA. But I'm hoping that soon I can start showing people agents that we have for data science. That I know. But I don't know if I'll be able to do that by next week. So give us your ideas on what you want to see, or if you want to send something. Marcus did awesome, like crushed it today, or whatever. We'd like to see do that. But also see any type of file. It doesn't have to be code. We would like to see people use VO3 to create videos, right? Like we create videos now and have audio. It's supposed to be synced up and everything. If you can get good at that, you can save these tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands of dollars. That is be doing in the next 5 years. Thank you all for coming.
Yeah.
What's that? Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna. So one second, let me have to exit this here. Okay, sorry, that is still going, so I just wanted to exit. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like, because we just had it. Where did that window go? I mean, it just created
Okay.
Yeah, let me. Where did?
Somebody.
Well, here, one sec. Let me. I had it was going. I guess it must have closed it. Let's see, because we just basically saw it.
It's like, wait, Ben's out.
Let me make sure that So this is Visual Studio Code. The one thing about the one kind of let's see, the one kind of I'd say kind of blocker with Claude Code is that it has to run in Linux. So if you're on a Mac, you're kind of set. Like you can install it pretty easily. If you're not on a Mac, you'll have to install. Yeah, well, there's like Windows has a thing called WSL2 that you can install, but it basically puts like it's more or less a Linux VM, but it has like native access to the system resources. So it's like a really fast, very, very fast. So like, and then once you install it, you can just do like WSL2, and then you get your command line here. So now you're inside of basically a full-fledged Linux environment that's running on the system hardware. Yeah, so it's pretty slick. And then you can just do your stuff like you can launch Visual Studio Code by basically code is the tool name, and then it'll pop up another instance of VS Code. But
From there,
and then from there, then
yeah, hit us up.
where can't get that open? Oh, here we go. So once then you have to go through the whole process for installing Claude Code, and you're installing into Linux, right? And then it just becomes a command line tool like this, right? So you do like type in Claude, and whatever directory you type in Claude from, it starts this interface, right? So this is all you could do all of that through the terminal, right? Like you don't have to open up. Like you could type Claude right here. Well, actually, let's see. Change. Yeah, so you could type Claude right here. This is just running on. This is just the WSL2. Yeah, so this is like running. So you don't have to have Visual Studio at all. So
is there a website that I can do all this on as well? Or?
no, I don't think so. I mean, you do, yeah, and then. I mean, this is now you type that from your project's root, like wherever your project is, and then you can just start telling it to do stuff, right? Like the same as this is the same as in here, but I just like to have like File Explorer and other stuff